Welcome to Outthinkers. In this special in-person conversation, I sit down with Malte Bernholz, Vice President of Corporate Strategy and Incubator at Adobe. Together, we explore the macro forces and creative trends redefining industries in the age of AI. Where does the balance lie between human creativity and machine creativity? And perhaps there is no company that is more on the edge of this than Adobe. In this conversation, you're going to find it's one about courage, about imagination and leadership at the edge of technological change.
Well, Malte, thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk. I've got more to cover here than we have time for. So let's just jump right in.
Well, and thank you for coming out here.
Thank you. No, thanks for inviting me. This is a beautiful office, by the way. Hopefully we'll get to share some of it with our audience as well. I'd like to open up with the same two questions I ask all my guests. First one may have nothing at all to do with your career or work. Could you complete this sentence for me? If you really know me, you know that.
So we discovered that we have something in common.
Yes.
So if you really know me,
yes.
as you know me, you know that we worked in the same office at McKinsey in Miami. Actually.
At the same years.
At the sort of right during the dot-com boom, right?
And the reason that we only discovered that now is because we didn't work on a project together. And although we were attached to the same office, this was the dot-com boom.
Yeah.
We were going in and out of different regions, working for clients that were just building all kinds of things. So we didn't have a lot of
That's right.
time.
That's right.
Yeah. Cool.
And then the other thing, if you know me well, you know that I'm deeply passionate about photography.
Yeah.
And that's actually weighed in, that was part of my decision of joining Adobe a while
So
ago.
that predates your time at Adobe, this passion for photography.
Yeah, I was born with it.
Really?
It's in the family. It's sort of my creative outlet.
How is it in the families?
Well, my father was always into photography and traveled the world with a Leica, so yeah.
Yeah. So it
So it was a real big perk of like coming to Adobe and then being able to interact with the team. So obviously I'm a big Lightroom user. And being able then to work with the team that developed the features. When I joined, they were just going towards tablets and mobile and so on. I even, whether they wanted it or not, I had thoughts on it and contributed, but that was a big perk of the early on, being able to interact with the teams.
And we'll get to this later, I'm sure, but I just get the sense as I prepared for this is that the origin is serving that creative.
What's interesting, the origin of the company is even around PostScript and PDF and Acrobat, and then also creativity. Creativity is at the heart of everything, right? So yes, about like rough numbers, half of the business is all around creativity and the creative tools like Photoshop, Illustrator, Lightroom that you know well. But then there's a good part of the business that's around Acrobat, PDF, and productivity. And then another big part of the business around digital experiences.
Yes.
And that is enterprise software for the largest enterprises.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig into the digital experiences because it's changing so much, and we'll get into that in a moment. I want to ask you the second question, and we ask all of our guests this. Many of them are experts in strategy, and we never get the same answer. So whatever you say is right. What's your definition of strategy?
Yes, I'm sure you get as many answers as guests you have.
Yes.
And you're an expert too, so.
I get more confused every day.
Well, so there's many canonical answers. You could say, hey, at the essence, it's how to get from A to B. But then it gets complicated. But like, what is A? Where are you positioned? What is your current environments? What is the context? What do you want to achieve? Then how do you define B? Where do you want to go? What are the different scenarios of the position you want to attain? And how can you leverage your strength and your assets? To get there, what is the right path to get, and then how do you define in detail what the first few steps and align the resources to reach those steps. So the moment you start to unpack it, it gets more complicated. But what I'd say, like in the current environment, and I think it evolves. Maybe that's why you get so many different answers. It evolves with the current environment and the setting you're in. So in the current environment, where really innovation is happening at warp speed, I think you need to be sort of ambidextrous, meaning on one hand, you want to make sure that you are reacting very quickly and experimenting and incorporating all the new innovation, obviously in AI, into everything you do. On the other hand, you need to force yourself to have a longer term view and to find a clear vision that is to which you build towards, and that is, inspiring for everybody internally and externally, and that gives you a clear North Star to align all your organic or inorganic efforts towards.
And your planned and spontaneous activities as well.
That's right.
Fascinating.
And I think it's, I just get excited about the topic, but this is one of the most exciting times to be in tech and to be doing strategy, right? We're living a once in a lifetime. You and I worked at the same office during the .com boom. This is an even bigger transformation. It's a once in a lifetime tech shift, and we are part of defining how we're all going to live in 3 to 5 years and how our kids are going to live. And so that is really interesting.
And we had one guest on the podcast, and he had interviewed Bill Gates, Sam Altman, all these others. And he said, Bill Gates has not only seen, but been part of at least 3, transfer. The PC, the mobile phone, or mobile, and the internet. Maybe that's a different order. And he asked him, what about AI? And he said, this is the biggest one yet. Yeah. It's like all those 3 are the foundations for what's about to happen now.
And you know what's fascinating is that for the last 3 years, it's always been not so much about the technology today, but about the pace of innovation. Okay. And you might say that's always the case, but in this case, we are all building towards what we believe, where we believe the technology will end up. Meaning, if you take at face value the capabilities of models and what we can do, it's great, but it's not perfect. Yes. And we are all really building and developing strategy because we assume that the fast pace or trajectory of innovation in multimodal large language models and media generation models, etc., that'll take us to a totally new spot.
Yes.
So, and that's slightly different than other ways.
Would you say it is a question of speed, moving faster? Is it a question of uncertainty and needing to have kind of variability in possible outcomes, or both?
I think you point to a good point. I had this conversation actually yesterday evening, which is in strategy becomes a bit of a question of an and. You need to be very open to having an and to make several bets at the same time and being open to several outcomes. And how to balance this, people are starting to talk about a bubble in AI. And the question is, are we overemphasizing sort of everything is going to change? And yes, of course, we believe that everything has changed. So the question is how to balance that, how to not over-index on it, but also be realistic that the pace of innovation in AI models is absolutely staggering, right? And we are seeing, and it's not relenting. I mean, we are seeing on a weekly basis, model innovation that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think because unlike other technologies, AI is sort of self-referential. It's self-informing or training, right? It's not humans developing technology, applying it, learning how to use it, and then developing it further, but it can actually develop itself, which maybe means that the past thoughts on where the direction is might be based on a model that's not fully relevant now. Yeah. And so you have to have opinions about where that's going. So I was wondering, could you just lay out for me, what do you think are the key trends? Maybe they're technological trends, maybe they're social trends, maybe they're macroeconomic trends that are going to shape the future of the space of creativity and digital experiences.
Yes, talk about a broad question, but
start wide.
And I think clearly, as we briefly talked before, the one thing that's influencing all of that the most right now is the era of AI.
Sure.
So when you think about the creative economy, the way I think about it, it's really what AI does. It raises the ceiling and lowers the floor. So I go into what that means. So let's start with lowering the floor. Lowering the floor, it makes it so much easier for you to create the content you want to do, to achieve your task, right? And we all know this in our experience today, but even in creativity and producing the output, whether you just need to create some piece of content because that's a task you need to accomplish and it's not really your main job, or whether you're a C-Pro, C-Pro, creative professional.
Okay,
where you're a C-Pro and you want to learn a new format, a new medium, create something quickly, or get rid of the tedious task, deliver faster, adapt something, create more variation. All that is easier to access, right? So it lowers the floor.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it raises the ceiling, meaning you can do so much more. You can be so much more sophisticated. You can pull in so much more content and do something that, let's say, now is multimedia, or it's on several surfaces, have many different formats, and you can become an expert in all of this. So it gives, at the top end, it really gives superpowers to the most sophisticated users also. That is very exciting. In the end, we are here to help our customers succeed throughout the range, whether they are, and we will talk about, I'm sure, customer or all different audiences, but whether you're a professional who lives in this world and is there to create the most advanced content, or whether you're just a business professional, you're me, a knowledge worker, and you just need to do a quick task. So, so that is really interesting. It also points out that what will remain important for us and our users is things like, taste, curation, originality, things that we add, right?
We being humans.
We as humans, yes. And it's the more time we spend on AI, the more we see it gives you wings, it gives you superpowers. But to do something, you do with it what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. No, you have a canvas that's so much broader.
Right. So many, many more kind of versions to choose from and to react to, but you still need that kind of human taste or aesthetic in order to...
Exactly. So I absolutely don't come to it from a position of fear. It's more of a position of like, no, people can do so much more. And it's our job to enable them to do all that across the board. So that's on the creative economy. And the world is hungry for content. I mean, the explosion, that's been the force, the tailwind for Adobe for so many years, but the content has absolutely exploded and will continue. That explosion will continue to accelerate and feed that economy. And that leads us to, you talked about digital experiences, sort of what is now coming into focus is really realizing that promise of personalization at scale.
Yes.
Or one-on-one marketing.
Yes.
Right? Now you can create all these variations either beforehand or on the fly for that specific customer in that context based on what their history is, their need is, their intent is.
Just to help us visualize that, can you give us like a hypothetical use occasion of that personalization at scale or to personalize digital experiences?
Any brand, and the largest companies in the world are our customers, right? Any brand will want to customize what you see on their website or in their product or the messages you receive based on exactly who you are, what intent we can infer from your behavior, and what you have disclosed.
Yes.
And so driving the right type of offers and promotions and content for you, and you can do that at a finer level.
Yes.
And really individualized.
Yes.
And that is really interesting. On staying with the brands and the companies, you can think that and this is a big statement, but the fabric of the internet is evolving very fast.
Okay.
So we start talking about agentic web, right? Where like, no, you can the user experience is different, and they can use more and more agentic capabilities to discover brands, in the future even to commerce, right? And experience content.
Yes.
And so brands need to adapt to that. So how do you show up?
Agents doing commerce, kind of parts of the commerce for us.
Agents doing commerce, or you doing commerce through agents? So what is the experience as a brand you want to give them on your website?
Yes. Sometimes the essence of a brand is it's a character that I can trust, and I feel like I know like what BMW is or what a Volvo is, right? And then if we start having more individualized experiences, like, when I go to the website, it's different than yours. The messages that I get, or maybe the voice that I hear is different than the voice that you hear. Do you guys have a view on like what then is left for the brand, or how does the brand still have a value? Because like I think just like there's some people who can be completely inauthentic, and they're one person with someone else, and someone else with someone else, someone else with someone else. How do we a brand then doesn't exist if it is a different person for everything
but
else?
using your analogy, I don't know, if you have kids,
I have kids,
you have kids, you have friends, you have a spouse, you also behave differently with all of them.
Absolutely.
You're always yourself.
Yeah.
And the same happens to a brand. A brand just needs to be really what defines and what is the non-negotiable, right? And what defines the brand. And then versus a very big surface area where you can be adaptable and change. And it's also being true to your brand to offer the customer what they want or what they need at that point. To a certain point, you might say disingenuous to offer everybody the same thing and be so monolithic, right? That is the thing that's not that's not really what you want as a brand. So you need to be flexible there. But you're right that defining that and defining what is the voice of your brand will get probably more sophisticated over time, because you need to understand how you can flex it and how variable it can be. When you think about big trends and what's influencing, so how our users and customers work will also change, right? And even in enterprise now, we'll make it easier and easier to access all the wealth of data that is within the enterprise, like we call it first-party data, and leverage that, again, to improve the experience you have for your customers.
I recently did finish this study, and I found that if you find a customer need and you can broadly let it be known inside the company or the ecosystem that there is this need, my average of these interviews is 71.4% of the time, the answer is already there. But often it's
you
hard
know how to serve that customer?
Somebody in the company has a solution that could be applied to that need, but often we can't find that solution. And so I guess where I'm going with what I'm imagining is we get this, you first-hand data.
First-party data.
First-party
as
data,
opposed to
right?
third-party
and you're able
data.
to bring it together. That's what I'm kind of hearing you speak to. I don't know if that's where you were going, but this ability to connect and collaborate within.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're pointing to is like with individuals within the company. What's also like in terms of first-party data, there's such a wealth of information for any brand about how your customers, what customers look for, how they interact with you, what they use, how they use your products, etc.
I see, yes.
Unlocking that data to help you create better products, help you create better experience with those customers, help understand what are your different profiles, and target them specifically. I think that has a lot of value. And that's something where we'll see rapid evolution over the next few years.
Yeah, I think we're going to get into later about how Adobe has kind of reorganized a bit towards being more customer and segment kind of focused versus product focused, which I think is what it naturally becomes easier with this first-party data. When you hear people talk about this future of digital media and digital experiences, what do you hear that people often get wrong, in your opinion?
Well, this might be controversial.
Sure.
But there's a lot of angst around AI and jobs, right? And we obviously, as we mentioned before, we serve a lot of creative CPROs, creative professionals, and also people for whom the job is not creativity, but it's a broader base. It's a whole range of people and who focus on creativity. And the question is there any, and my answer is there's absolutely, I don't think there's a threat to people's job. I think we will be busier than ever.
Yeah, we usually are.
We usually are, right? Which is disappointing.
I know. I'm waiting for the...
But I don't think that, what is it, like 70% of job codes? We looked at the job codes that existed in 1940. 70% of the job codes today that exist today did not exist then.
Wow.
So we don't know what those job codes are going to be, but there will be jobs and people will be very busy, and there will be a lot of jobs in creativity. Now, what it means and the sort of your daily task much vary. The good news is I think we are going to tackle first the things that are tedious tasks, repetitive tasks, things where you waste a lot of time, that nobody really wants to focus on that. As opposed to that, if I tell a creative professional, well, you will have the ability to spend more time on actually being creative. Actually having new ideas, talking with your customers, with your partners, ideating together, trying different things, as opposed to spending the time in some things that where AI can help accelerate.
And I guess what's peeing for me now is that thing that we do with this extra time that is creative, innately, we can't predict it now.
Yes.
Because it's to be created.
Yes, and it points to, we talked about the create economy, how there will be more and more content, but how important it is to actually spend that time to create originality, to do curation, to have taste, to introduce that. Because we will, to be creative is also to help your customers or help navigate the sea of content that's being created.
Sorry, what keeps coming up for me is more and more creative content, the floor lowering, the ceiling increasing. And I just don't know what then is the purpose of all this creative content. I mean, I can understand like where my mind immediately goes is messages for customers so we can help understand and meet their needs, right? I understand that. But if we have this plethora of creative content, do you have a view on what creative output is for?
I think you might have the feeling right now that there's already a lot of content and there's a lot of AI slop and that there's a lot of, content on maybe even, I don't know, Netflix that you're not watching or something. But the reality is that the demand for content is really accelerating a lot when you start thinking about, well, something that's really relevant for you or that's really interesting or that's, and all we've seen is like just an acceleration in the demand of content.
I see that, yes.
And good content for you. You don't need to watch all the content, meaning that the fact that there's a lot of content doesn't mean that you have to watch all of it. It actually means we want to just get the right thing for you, but that is attractive to you and that is appealing.
See that? So that's that economies of scale towards personalization at scale that you were talking about.
And if you make it easier for creators everywhere, and we're starting with any skill level to create and express their voice. Imagine the stories you will come up with. Everybody has a story to tell. I don't know how good you are at drawing or the photography or the videography.
I went to art school in high school.
So then,
but I've forgotten most of it. But yes,
maybe you're not that great at 3D. But
I love the intrinsic. I think that's also what I was also listening for. I think there's just intrinsic value in creating that humans want to create. And maybe they don't know how to draw well, but they have ideas and the joy of like creating something.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody has a story to tell. Right. And so allowing everybody to bring that across and to express it in different formats, different mediums, I think that's very valuable.
This is a little bit out there kind of question, but imagine we have this, the floor, the ceiling, much more creative content, personalized experiences. And I think of Adobe's, although you do support non-visual content, what I think of when I think of Adobe's suites of things is visual content. Now, if I type something into a ChatGPT or something, that takes a long time. If I speak into it, it's faster. So if speaking is faster than typing. But visual transfers of content to a human, a picture tells 1,000 words, that I think is the most efficient form. And so more of that content is going to be communicated through Adobe. So I'm just like wondering what do you think of the role of visual content? How do you think that will change in the future, how we do commerce?
Well, I think there's two parts to your question, which is one is how do you consume? Like meaning how do you want to consume information?
Yes.
And I totally agree with you. Sometimes it's better in written form, sometimes it's better in spoken form, sometimes it's better to create a diagram or a picture or a movie or whatever it is, right? And that's definitely where we are going. I mean, not to tout our own portfolio, but we recently launched PDF Spaces, which is a way to you aggregate many document sources that are relevant and you're able to question that. And then you increasingly be able to, consume that information in the ways you want.
Yes.
Right? And say what works for you the best at that moment in time, right? Do you want a 3-bullet summary?
Yes.
As many times we do in strategy, or do you want a long form, or do you want to transform that into a clip?
Yeah.
Right? So the other side of the coin is when you think about inputs, because you mentioned prompts. And is that always the best way to use as an input? And obviously, and we know, I don't know, maybe it was an accident of history that we all know, we're all talking about prompt and prompt engineering, et cetera. But obviously, when you talk about creativity, many of our customers, especially creative professionals, et cetera, they want ultimate control. They want to be able to completely translate what their vision is into the output, into their creation, right? So you talk about also controlling speed, color, every detail, and every aspect of your creation. So their prompts are probably not sufficient, right? So we need to make sure that in our platforms and our tools, we offer you exactly at the right time, exactly the right controls you need for whatever you want to create. If you and I want to create something quickly, maybe I don't need so much control. If I'm a creative professional, I'm creating the next blockbuster, or I'm creating something that in a totally new style that anyone has ever seen before, then I want to spend time on it, and I want to be able to control every aspect.
Yes.
And prompts are not enough for that.
Yes. Yes. Fascinating. Yeah. My head is going to, what does it look like to have more digital prompts and even kind of being able to communicate my imagination to something. Great. I want to get into how, what Adobe's strategy is in that. But before we do that, I think there's one element that we have to also address, which is tools versus full stack platforms. Do you see the industry moving from individual tools towards more full stack platforms?
The way we think about our AI strategy is really across 4 layers. So we think about apps and interfaces, and that's where people experiment many of the apps that we mentioned before, but also third-party interfaces. Then an agentic layer, agent orchestration, which is really where you develop the agentic capabilities that might surface in the tools where our customers are today, or even in some other surfaces, including AI chat platforms. And then we talk about models. So what are the models you use, the AI models? And there we started with our own family of models, the Firefly family of models.
Because you developed your own model.
Early on, we decided to develop our own. And also now we include third-party models. So we partner with others to include their models and make them available within our surfaces. And then the last layer is data. It's like, what is the data you use? So what is the data you use for training models? And what is the data you are able to unlock for customers? We talked about first-party data in the enterprise. How do you unlock that data so that the rest of the tech can work on it?
Interesting. Right, so it's not just sort of accessing data and bringing it to you. It is sort of the interconnections between you and your data.
That's right.
Yeah, so you're starting to lay out kind of how you were thinking of these layers in the stack, and it's interesting, the model. It's sort of like a new mindset around your AI strategy, and Adobe has done this before. It has evolved its mindset, from selling packaged software towards moving to subscriptions was a very famous strategic move. Revenue went way down and stock price went way up, and people bet on
briefly
Adobe.
went really down.
Okay.
Yeah.
But people saw, hey, Adobe can adjust. So that's what I kind of see is happening. So, but based off of your past experience in managing such transformations, how is your experience there helping you drive this shift, which we'll get into in the AI era?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this was way before my time, right? When Adobe pioneered sort of the subscription model. But it is deeply ingrained in the culture. And I think in the end, that culture is what is really important, how to respond now. So right now, yes, when sort of as we enter the era of AI, we're also able to react very quickly and decide, for instance, to build our own models, then decide to include AI into our biggest flagship products. And I think it's Adobe's what Adobe really learned from the move to subscription that you mentioned is how to be agile, maybe take the time and to form a clear opinion and a clear North Star, but then act decisively and fast. And I think very clearly what the company did before my time, moving to subscription, is really at one point burning the boats, right? And one was saying, you know what, this is how it is. We are going to, everything, you can't buy the packaged software anymore. It will be by subscription, and that's also how we're going to report on the business. And I think that same logic of one really understanding what is happening in the environment, forming a strong point of view, but then acting decisively is what culturally helps. And the whole company is very open about evolution in the landscape, and also like breaking some glass if needed.
Yes, yes. So it's almost like we've experienced this organizationally. We have this organizational memory. We have this heritage. So we can. It's almost like we recognize this moment, and we kind of collectively understand how to think about it.
Which is, it is okay to change. It is okay to break some glass. It is okay to change the direction. To adapt quickly.
Now you've also implemented some organizational mechanisms then also to facilitate that, right? And could you just tell me about? And you talked earlier about this ambidextrous kind of organization. How do you? What have you introduced organizationally to leverage this collective cultural willingness to break things and move forward?
So one thing we've done, and that started from the strategy team, was to create an incubator within Adobe with the advent of the era of AI. So by no means do I want to say that innovation only happens in the incubator. That's absolutely not true. There's innovation happening everywhere throughout the company. In the product groups, we have a very productive lab, and that has produced a lot of innovation through time. But the incubator is a very interesting mechanism for us to explore new products, new business models, and very quickly, and then see it lead us anywhere. So we've built that incubator on a few clear principles. One, we're saying it does not need to happen within the incubator. If any innovation happens throughout the company, that is great. But we want to incubate those ideas that are a little bit on the edge, that might become the center in the future.
Yes.
Or that are a bit more risky. And then our principle is really to encourage entrepreneurship within the company. So we function a little bit, we borrowed some of the best ideas from Y Combinator and VCs. So it's all about small teams. Small is beautiful. It's all employees at Adobe with great ideas, great teams. So it's all rests on having...
How big is a team?
A team starts with like 3, 4, 5 people. And what is interesting is sometimes when people join, so you might have someone who's, and it's crazy how much innovation and new ideas there are throughout the organization, right? So I'm always surprised about people who all of a sudden have developed a prototype or really pushed an idea that's really interesting. And so, but sometimes when you've been an employee at Adobe, you come and you say, oh, but I need a program manager, or I need a researcher, or maybe I need an assistant or something. And the answer obviously is no. Like now you're in a startup and you're going to work together in a garage and you're like 4 people and you're going to do everything full time, including product, design,
so people get
business.
Time to...
They move into the incubator. They move into the incubator and they're fully dedicated to that one venture. And we call it a venture. And it's all about iterating very fast. They, as you would say, as the Y Combinator pioneered, all they do is build and talk to users, build and talk to users, and repeat, and iterate very quickly. And then we fully embrace the possibility that most ideas will not necessarily succeed, but will lead to learnings that might inform our strategy in the future or some inorganic action. Many of them will find a path into existing products and business units, and a few might become totally new lines of business. Right.
How do you make that kind of decision? Because you're not simply talking about manning the fort and sending the ships out. You're not just talking about the core and the new. It's more nuanced than that. So how do you balance the activation of the new, experimentation, try, break things, and learn, but also keep the what's working running well?
Yeah, I think when you think about throughout Adobe, the product groups, right, and the business units, obviously focus on their core products and their customers and any innovation they want to bring to their customers, and that's where, frankly, most of the innovation happens throughout the company. No, for the incubator, what we seek are those ideas that are a little bit farther out, that are really transformative. Obviously, they need to have a huge market opportunity, market potential. They need to have a great team. And we also ask them to be aligned with the mission of the company. So this is a bit of a pragmatic approach. We are not looking for moonshots here.
Yes.
We are looking for something that squarely fits within the mission of the company. But that will be very relevant in 2 years when they're ready to go to market, right? Or in a year and a half.
Soon. Wow.
Right? Well, the market is,
market is
evolving
moving
so
quickly.
quickly.
Yes,
that
yes,
is
yes,
actually a lifetime.
Okay.
That was part one of our in-person conversation with Malte Bernholz of Adobe. In part two, available now on the Chief Strategy Officer podcast, we go behind the scenes of Adobe itself to uncover how the company organizes for innovation and builds its strategy from the inside out. In that episode, Malte reveals how Adobe has shifted from a product-centric to a customer-centric model around 3 audience groups, how its corporate strategy team balances long-term vision with short-term execution, the creation of Adobe's internal AI incubator inspired by venture models like Y Combinator, where small teams develop breakthrough ideas, and the early successes already emerging. You can find that continuation of our discussion on the Chief Strategy Officer podcast. Watch or listen to discover how one of the world's most iconic companies is redefining innovation from within.